カーディ海賊のビデオ見えちゃった？
なんでわかるんだ？
この毒が大好物。いただきます。
Kaardi Kaizoku.
This video is sponsored by Nen Garden. Nen Garden is having a summer kickoff sale with prices slashed site-wide. And for a limited time, get a free playmat tube with every Sun God playmat you purchase, while supplies last. Use code CARDKaizoku for an additional 5% off. This video is brought to you by Adakai TCG. Shop the latest in premium holographic textured custom One Piece cards. Designed for collectors, crafted to stand out. Use code CARDKaizoku for 15% off your next order. This video is sponsored by gumgum.gg. Discover Western OP10 lists and Eastern OP11 lists on gumgum.gg. Updated daily. Be the first to see decks for new leaders as they emerge. With over 1,000 deck lists per set, gumgum.gg has all the top strategies as soon as they drop. This video is sponsored by Card Market, Europe's largest online marketplace for trading card games. Alright, so the starter decks have been on the bug testing version of the sim for about a week now. So I had a chance to try out every starter deck, try out all the cards. So let's just rank them, right? Let's do a tier list for all the starter decks on how worth it they are, how good they are, how much they boosted current decks, right? If the cards in these starter decks are worth it or not. Now, my playtesting, you have to take into account, was within the pool of people who are also testing and bug testing on the sim. There were bugs on the sim too, so that affected the way people played, the type of cards people played. So do be aware of that. But yeah, so don't expect me to have too many games against like Blue Purple Luffy, right? No one's playing Blue Purple Luffy on the bug test version of the sim when they're trying out the new cards. So might be a little biased in that regard, where all my testing was against other starter deck cards. But as someone who's played the game for almost 2 years now, and I think I'm pretty decent, I feel like I could get like a general power level of these starter deck cards. So that's where I'm coming from, just so you know, telling you up front. So yeah, we'll just start from color order, right? So the Shanks deck gave us these cards here, this Uta, this Shanks, this Ben Beckman, this Luffy, and then this Yasop. Unfortunately, I don't think any single one of these cards makes it into a Shanks deck. And then people thought that perhaps maybe it's for like a Red Purple Uta deck, right? This leader here. And yeah, that's like the closest thing you could justify this starter deck buffing is for this particular leader. But it just turns it from an off-meta deck to an off-meta deck. So unfortunately, the Shanks deck has been like the biggest miss, I would say. And yeah, I would only have to assume that the people who are working on these starter decks and the people who are working on OP11 and OP12, they're different teams, different design teams. Maybe they kind of missed the mark of Shanks's viability. Because yeah, if this was like OP10, OP09, where Shanks was top dog, they did have to worry about making a starter deck that made him too strong, right? Because he's been like one of the best decks in the format for a while now. But since OP11 with Blue Purple Luffy taking over, and even Green Purple Luffy, Shanks has like fallen to the wayside. It would have been nice if this starter deck brought him back into meta relevancy, because that's kind of what these starter decks were supposed to do. So a little disappointing that in that like every single one of these, none of these even like remotely fits into a Shanks deck. Maybe this Shanks, right, the one that makes your leader a 7k, but you're already pretty tanky with your leader ability. So yeah, our first starter deck on the tier list is going to be an F tier for sure, unfortunately. So move on to green with Bonnie. So Bonnie, her starter deck kind of helped alleviate some of her problems with her leader ability, because you always have to leave one Dawn up, right? Or play cards that like untapped Dawn. So where that is fixed is in this Kid and Killer Searcher here. But we'll go over the cards real quick. So there's a Chump Blocker. This is something you can cheat out with the 8-cost Kid. And this Kid and Killer, that's a Searcher, 2-cost Searcher. And then on your opponent's attack, you can trash this character instead one of your Dawn is active, you know, giving you Dawn up for your leader ability always, whenever you want. There's also this 2k Hawkins that can, at the end of your turn, set up one of your Dawn is active. This Law and Beppo as a new top end. It's a 10 cost 11k. You can rest a character, and then it stays rested for one of your opponent's turns. And then if your opponent has 2 rested characters, your leader gets 7k buff. Or plus 2k to become 7k, not plus 7k. And then there's this Extract that can also rest a 5-drop on play. It also gives you a Dawn up for your leader ability too. So yeah, these are all wonderful inclusions into Bonnie. And one of the side effects of these cards helping Bonnie is that they also help Green Yellow Law, especially this Kid and Killer. So Green Yellow Law, like arguably some people think he benefited even more from Bonnie's starter deck than Bonnie did, in that the Kid and Killer replaces itself and it counts as 2 costs for Law's leader ability. Because if you have 5 or more cost on board in total, that's when you can start cheating stuff out from the top of your life. And then most of the cards in this deck are supernovas anyway, so this Kid and Killer fits right in. And then they also started adapting to running Room, right? This event counters for 3k when you're at 1 life. You go to 1 life pretty easily in a green yellow law deck. Having this extra Kid Killer on board in the late game, you can just pop this guy, give yourself a Dawn, and then you can like counter for 3k. And then if you have the blocker law, because this is a common card run in the deck as well, Room untaps a character, so you have access to this blocker again. He can block twice if he survives the first hit. So yeah, the fact that the Bonnie deck buffed 2 decks, I do think this helps the Bonnie deck immensely, right? You have access to your Dawn a lot more liberally with the Hawkins and the Kid Killer and then X-Drake too. Because of that, I do think like there's a lot of value in this Bonnie starter deck. Law and Beppo is a top end. People are still debating on whether this is worth it over the film Shanks, right? This one here, it pops a rested character on play, or even Doflamingo, the one that can keep 3 characters rested. Now, my argument for why I kind of like Law and Beppo more is that it's more proactive. The Shanks required your opponent having a rested character already on board to get value. Doflamingo required them to have a rested leader and 2 characters potentially. So there are board states where your opponent makes it less optimal for you to do that. Meanwhile, this Law and Beppo always has a target, right? Because you rest something. If they just played something, you can freeze it right away. You don't have to wait for it to attack first. You don't have to wait for their leader to attack. And it also like makes your leader a 7k buff too. I gotta stop saying that. Makes your leader into 7k after being buffed for 2k is what I mean. Making it a little harder for them to attack into you. And then if you have your other cards like Kid Killer and Basil Hawkins that give you that active Dawn, you can stop another attack that way. So you're essentially buying 1 whole turn and also freezing something to prevent even more damage on the clapback. So yeah, in that regard, I do like Law and Beppo. It's just that the reason why the Shanks was so good is that you have that 1 Dawn available. You don't need to depend on having a Kid Killer out. But to be honest, I don't think it's too hard to have 1 extra Dawn with the Bonnie nowadays. So that's why I like Law and Beppo, and the X-Drake is just really nice as a tech 2k, right? You'd run X-Drake, you'd run Tashigi, and then you'd run, I guess you could run a Poo if you want to rest your opponent's Dawn. But yeah, because of that, because it helps 2 decks immensely, maybe even more that we just don't know about. But for now, these 2, I think I have to put Bonnie in S tier, right? Bonnie might come back into relevancy, and it definitely makes Green Yellow Law like a super serious contender now. Okay, up next is the Buggy deck. So Buggy, I have a pretty painted history with this guy. If you guys look back to when he was first revealed, when he was spoiled in OP09, I tried the deck out. I thought he was like hot garbage. It was like one of the worst decks ever. So disappointing just because his leader ability didn't really make sense. Like all of his cards were 5 cost, and then you're paying 5 Dawn and discarding a card to play out a 5 cost. And then at the time, the only like valid target was like this crocodile, right? This was the only thing that you got a discount for playing back in OP09. Here, I can even show you like cross OP09. Like this is what we had to work with. So this is what I had to base my opinion of the deck on, right? You're using your leader ability to pay 5 Dawn for a 5 Dawn character. It didn't make any sense to me at all. But since then, with this starter deck, this amazing starter deck, we'll go over the cards real quick. Alvida, it's a 4-drop that can count as a 5-drop on board, and then you can draw 3, discard 2, so it replaces yourself. Kabaji is a 2k that can become a blocker. Crocodile Mihawk, literally the card that like makes this deck, I think, meta viable now. It cheats out a 4-drop, so it's every single other character from this starter deck. And then it comes with built-in evasion. Not only does he do that, he also replaces himself, right? Draw 2, discard 1. And then yeah, built-in evasion every turn, once per turn. If one of your cross-guild type characters would be removed from the field. Now that's KO, bottom deck, bounce, trash, any kind of removal. You discard a card and then you save that character. That makes it incredibly easy to get to your 10 cost Buggy strategy. Like this card single-handedly makes this deck playable, I feel. And if Buggy becomes popular in the meta, like every single removal deck is going to be punished dearly. That might even give room for like Kobe to come into the meta too. But yeah, this card does literally everything you want in a Buggy deck, right? It draws you a card, it plays another card out, and it saves your other characters. I think out of all the starter decks, this is like the most insane card. And then we have this 4-cost Buggy. So a lot of people are also on the fence on this card because literally his only good target is this Mihawk, right? Because it what he does is if you discard a card in your hand and you trash the Buggy, you can play a 6 cost or less from your hand, cross guild. And then, yeah, literally the best target is this Mihawk. Yeah, of course you could play one of the 5-drops, but like you want to get the most value out of it. Paying 4 for a 6 is a pretty decent discount. If you get this guy early and out enough, he's a 7k blocker from like your second turn, right? You're able to stop a bunch of free attacks at you, and then he even draws a card. So what are you, like -1 in total playing this out? But you get to have this 6 cost 7k out early. So not only can he block, he's also a lot harder to remove at 6 costs, right? it takes a while for your opponent to be able to muster the removal for a 6 cost 7k. And then on top of having the Meat-Croc out, that makes it even harder to get rid of this blocker. So I like this Buggy, right? You can cheat it out with this Crocodile and Mihawk. So the value of this card only goes up if they ever print new 6 costs cross-skill type characters in the future. And he's an SR, so I would assume they would, right? I don't think it's going to stop here, but yet to be seen though, as of the recording of this video. And then last card is Moji, who's just a blocker that also counts as a 5 cost on board. So yeah, the fact that you can easily fix your going first curve, right? You want to go first anyway, so you get your leader ability ASAP, but it was hard before because you had to like pay fight on for your leader ability, and then all your characters were like 5 cost anyway. So like to play a character and cheat out this 10 cost Buggy, it was kind of awkward going first. But yeah, with these 4 costs that count as 5 costs on board, 3 of them, you run 4 of each. I'm pretty sure you have to run 4 of each of these. It makes it incredibly easy. It fixes his going first curve. So yeah, literally they paid the most attention to this starter deck, I feel. Now it does only benefit Buggy himself, but the care, the amount of detail, the amount of fixing that they put into these cards that they design, I do think Buggy's also an S tier, right? It's like they, I don't know, put extra love and care into this. Compared to Shanks, Shanks was like, okay, just print anything red. They didn't really, I don't know, they kind of like phoned it in, it feels like. But Buggy, you can tell, a Buggy main who's been struggling since OP09 definitely designed this deck. Up next is Purple Black Luffy. So Purple Black Luffy is a dual color leader, but they literally only printed purple cards for this deck. That's a little disappointing. I wanted them to play more into the fact that he was purple black, but we'll go over his cards. So there's this Soba Mask, kind of awkward to use. He's in 7 cost 9k, and then if you have a Sangoro or Sanji character with 7,000 power on the field, he becomes a 2 cost in your hand, and then if you play him out, you have to bounce that Sangoro or Sanji back to your hand. There's really no use case in doing that, not that I could tell. Like what you could do is play this Sanji out, swing for 7 on your next turn, you're at 9 Dawn, right? So you'll swing for 7 again, right? Because he had Rush last turn, he swung, and then he swings this turn. Then you'll bounce him back to hand with Soba Mask for 2 Dawn, and you have 7 Dawn remaining to play him out again, to swing another 7. So yeah, the fact that he has Rush is pretty nice for that, but it's such a specific combo. It only works with that Sanji card. This guy has no counter too, so it's a brick in your hand in a deck that's already chock full of a bunch of other bricks. If there was like a second Sanji or Sangoro character that is runnable in the deck, maybe it could save it, right? Because it needs a 7k power base or more. And then your options are, look, you got Sanji and Pudding doesn't count because it's not a Sanji card, but you have literally the blue Sanji, and then 9 cost Sanji, and then for the Sangoro, what other Sangoros are there? Yeah, the vanilla counts, and the other 2 were blue anyway, so your Purple Black Luffy, you can't run them. So literally the only other card you could use this with is the freaking vanilla card that you're probably not going to run in the deck. So yeah, Soba Mask, super disappointing. I don't know if they're going to print more Sanji cards in the future. Wait, does OP12 give you anything? 1 second. I didn't consider it. But purple and blue, right? There were Sanji cards. Oh, none of it was Sanji related. Okay, never mind. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what they were cooking with Soba Mask, but he's definitely not it. The only unique interaction he has is against a Blackbeard player. If they did leader ability and you play the Soba Mask out for 2, you don't have to bounce your Sanji back to hand, but it's such a niche interaction that I don't think you're going to run this as a Blackbeard tech, right? Because he's kind of doo-doo against every other leader. This Chopper is interesting. I would like to test more with it. I didn't get a chance to test, and there's not too many other purple decks on the bug testing environment to really get the efficacy of this card. But yeah, he's a blocker that can deny your opponent of active Dawn, so it can deny Gungam Giant, and it's a blocker anyway too. So I like that. I just need a proper meta environment to test him out. Now, Nico Robin definitely increases the consistency of a Black Purple Luffy deck, but it literally only helps Black Purple Luffy, so it's a pretty greedy card, but definitely a needed card. With the Robin and then the 3 cost Zoro and then Black Maria, you have 12 sources to ramp when you need to ramp. So it does definitely help, and it's a 2k too. This Frankie is a miss. It's an 8 cost 10k that just gives minus 2k to everything on board, but to 2 things, not everything. But yeah, you need to have other characters already on board to attack with for this to be useful at all, and the fact that there's no counter or anything else redeeming, kind of crap. And then the star of the deck is this Monkey D Luffy character, 6 cost 7k, the beer Luffy, but rum Luffy. It doesn't even look carbonated, so I don't know why people call it beer. So yeah, he makes your leader a 7k base on play and when attacking. Now it doesn't give you leader plus 2k, it makes it a 7k base, so it actually doesn't stack with the second copy of itself, unfortunately. I think if it's stacked, I think it would actually make this deck like I don't know. Would it be like a top meta contender? I kind of wish they did let it stack. I don't think it would have been too bad. But yeah, the fact that it just sets it at 7k. So if you do it again, you stay at 7k. That's a little disappointing. It also depends on your opponent being at 5 Dawn when you play this too. So if you're going, what is it? If you're going first, and then on your 3 Dawn turn you ramp to 4, next turn you go to 6, your opponent would have been at only 4 Dawn prior to that. So if you play this Luffy out, he doesn't give you the plus 2k buff. So that's kind of weird, right? Because they designed this deck to have 6 Dawn on your 3rd turn going first, right? That's what the point of this Robin, that's the point of the Zoro, the point of the Black Maria. But this card kind of has anti-synergy. Well, not anti-synergy, but like missed value from that, right? Because if you do get to do that curve, you play this guy out, he doesn't give you the plus 2k buff. But that might be why they give him the when attacking, so you can get it next turn. But yeah, that's where it goes back to why doesn't it stack? Like if it happens when attacking and then you're able to play a second one the turn after, and you become a 9k base, wouldn't that be pretty sick? I don't know, maybe it's too strong, too early, but in the grand scheme of things though, this does make the deck like pretty beefy. It's like a mid-range kind of combat deck now. That's the most success I've had with it, right? Not concentrating on the top end, not concentrating on removal. Just you don't even need to worry about getting to 10 Dawn. If you can stay around 7 to 8 and just chain a bunch of like Dawn minus effects, I felt like that did pretty well. It played a lot like Green Purple Luffy in that regard. But deep down, I really want to like this deck, but I think it doesn't. I don't think it makes it top meta. Unfortunately, it's nowhere near the level of this Bonnie and Buggy in terms of value. Right, a lot of these cards feel like side grades. Robin's definitely a buff, but yeah, side grades, like alternate ways to play. So I might have to put Luffy in B tier, unfortunately. But again, I want to be able to test in like a meta environment with the chopper cards, and then maybe just being a 7k base isn't too great into the other starter decks, but maybe against like the meta in general it is. I didn't really get a chance to test that, but we'll have to see. I could do like an update on this once OP11 is officially out on the sim. But for now, B is where I feel like he should be at. Then moving on to Yamato. So Yamato is considered the yellow leader of the set. But similar to the purple black Luffy, they only printed yellow cards for Yamato. No green cards, so they didn't really play into the green part of Yamato. But yeah, they printed cards that played more to Yamato's like ability to give 2 Dawn, rested Dawn to a character. So let's look at the cards. Oh wait, yellow's last. Oh well. I guess we'll break the order here. So Ashura Doji is a 3 cost that pops a 5 drop, only if your opponent has 3 or more life. Izo can give your leader banish and has blocker. Kinemon's a trigger 2k. Momonosuke is a rush attacker that can give a bunch of free stats out. And then Yamato is an attacker searcher. So I definitely like these cards. They're all usable cards, right? You could run every single one of these in a Yamato deck, I feel. Right? Kinemon's a no-brainer, right? It's a free body out, and then you run like trigger bodies like this anyway. Instead of Satori, you just run in archetype version of it. Izo can become a blocker later, and then he gives your leader banish. It's like Onami, right? This Onami without the trigger. The trigger is really strong though, but you get to have 8 Onami effects if you want to run it that way. Yeah, the interesting thing about Yamato was that there was never like a set in stone build. You had like the Fortress Yamato build, you have like the traditional like 5 cost Momo Yamato build, you have like that good stuff Yamato build that played Mihawk and a bunch of like trigger characters and stuff like that. So there was never like a standard list. But yeah, since these are all Wano type cards, it kind of did allow the like 5 cost Momo version of the deck to be more like uniform, solidified. Now, whether that's the best version of the deck, that's still yet to be seen. Yamato's always been kind of like an off-meta leader anyway. So I think this one, it might be good, but I think it just depends on someone cooking and figuring out the perfect list for it, just because there's so many builds. So I think once that's figured out, we can properly judge these cards. But from my testing, I played like 2 different versions. I played one that's like more Wano focused and then used the 5 cost Momo to set up triggers, and I played one that's just like balls to the wall. Like swing, double attack, banish at your leader's face. Then if they protect themselves, kill the characters with Ashura Doji. I feel like maybe that version is better, but I feel like there's certain leaders that counter that playstyle, so it's kind of matchup dependent, which is Yamato's problem in the first place. So it kind of, when I think about it that way, it's more of like a win more starter deck, right? The matchups that Yamato were good against got even better for Yamato, but the matchups that Yamato didn't do good against didn't really get shored up by these additions. Now, I think generically though, this Yamato and then Momo are like run, at least these 3, right? It's just these 2, whether you want to go for more, depending on your leader attacking or depending on like playing characters out. So because of that, where would Yamato rank? Now, I don't think any other deck benefits from these cards, right? because you have to be a Wano type leader. And then are there any other Wano type leaders that are yellow? It's just that crappy starter deck one, right? Yeah, this one here. Might be a Luffy tier, just because there's no like figured out list, and I couldn't figure it out. Right, I only have like a couple days to test on the bug test version. I haven't dedicated my entire life to making a proper list for this leader, but just for my testing, that's where I feel like Yamato would be at. And then finally we have Teach. Teach has, similarly to Shanks, been like a top meta leader from OP09 till now. He only got better as time progressed, but since Green Purple Luffy released, Teach has fallen out of meta just because that card is, that deck is really good against Teach. So I feel like what happened to Teach with the starter decks is what should happen to Shanks, because I do think it does breathe new life into the deck. So let's take a look at the cards. So Avalo Pizarro, I don't think this card is run, but it's like a 1-drop you can play early that can attack for 5 and draw you a card when it dies. Katarina Devon, also 2k counter option. I don't think you need to run it. I think most Blackbeards, from what they've taught me and told me, is that they don't even run 12 2k counters. So the slots for the 2k counters are kind of limited already. And then when I made my video, I forgot like Caribou existed in OP11. Is that where he's from? Yeah. So this is like a mandatory 4 of in the deck. Then you're running the Stronger, so that's already 8. So you have like 2 2k counters to pick. You could pick Katarina Devon, you could pick Shiryu, but up to you, I guess, kind of. But it's nice to have the option, I guess, right? Because Katarina Devon is more cost reduction focus. Meanwhile, Shiryu is like discard focus for your Jesus Burgess strategy. This Kuzan is a great addition. It's a 5-cost 6k blocker, a 6-cost 6k blocker that can on KO play out another Blackbeard Pirates type from your discard. Right, you're able to trash so many cards from your hand to play for your leader ability, but you never lose those cards because you have a bunch of ways to play them back out now between this Kuzan and the 5-cost Kuzan. And the 7-cost Teach, which we're going to go over in a bit, that also brings you cards back to your hand on death. San Juan Wolf, I'm not too sure about this guy. I don't think I saw too many people use him to great success. I didn't either, but yeah, he's a sticky blocker and it gets cheated out by both Kuzans if you need it. And then 7-cost Teach is like Jack for the deck. It's a tap KO outlet that pops a 3-drop, and then on death it lets you put any black card from your trash to your hand, even himself. Yeah, just having more KO outlets outside of freaking Doc Q, because that was what you had to work with before, right? This KO is a 1-drop. You had to combo cost reduction, and then you were kind of forced to run cards like the Black Hole, right? This is a card you had to run because you couldn't KO anything big with the Doc Q, and that's why they also ran the Finger Pistol too. For that reason, these are kind of bricks in your hand, but not too bricky in the fact that you can always discard them for your leader ability. Now you have like a in type, and it's a character too, way to KO something bigger. I feel like that helps the deck out quite a bit. But yeah, I would say the 2 biggest additions to the deck are this Teach and then this Kuzan. The other 3 probably not as impactful. I don't think they'll be run. But again, I'm not like a Blackbeard main. I feel like this is a deck that rewards the people who've stuck with it the longest. And yeah, I haven't put in my hours with the deck just because I have to, I have to play literally every single deck for you guys. So do keep that in mind. I have to depend on the Blackbeard main's knowledge on this. But from my experience playing Blackbeard, playing against Blackbeard, and then my limited skill with him, yeah, I feel like this is a pretty decent buff because most of the slots in the deck were pretty much figured out anyway. So just having some nice like different ways to play, like having this Kuzan as a blocker to recur your discard and having a bigger KO that is less of a brick in your hand. Does that shore up his weaknesses? A little bit, yeah, right? Because it's a lot of like delaying power to get to your 10 cost. You have other stuff to do besides jordling around for a couple turns until your 10 drop. So because of that, I think Blackbeard goes to A. And then since I have no C tier, it's kind of a eyesore. Let's remove it. So this is the starter deck tier list of how good the cards are, how much they boost existing decks, how much they boost the leader that they're supposed to boost. If I had to put the order within the tiers into account, probably Buggy above Bonnie. Right, I do actually think Buggy is going to be like a top meta contender now. Green Yellow Law as well, and I think Bonnie might come back too. And then Teach gets a slight buff, and he's kind of almost teetering back into meta viability. I think Teach's place in the meta depends on what's also in the meta, right? If Green Purple and other rush decks like that are able to be dealt with, yeah, he'll make his way back in for sure. The biggest anomalies are probably these 2. They could be meta, I could be wrong about these 2, but just from the apparent power level of the cards in the deck, they didn't wow me. I would like them to be good. I really do actually like these 2 leaders, but I don't want to like clickbait and put these guys in S without having anything to back it up. And then yeah, Shanks, I don't think anyone can justify his starter deck. We're pretty much sure we're all in agreement that this is like the worst starter deck. I don't know what they were doing. They kind of wasted paper printing these cards. I wish they gave it to a different leader. I know it's like the 4 Emperors theme, so they have to include each one, but if there was like a Zoro starter deck, that would have been really nice, right? If they gave Zoro the treatment that OPO1 Blue Doflamingo got, I think that would have been much better. But this is what we got, and this is the trash that we got along with it, unfortunately. Now, I'm being harsh on Shanks in that, like, if these cards end up being broken, someone figures out a way to use them, yeah, then I want to be dunked on. I want to be dunked on, right? Get attention on my video. Hey, this guy said these cards sucks, but they're broken. But to be honest, I don't think there's any saving this leader. But if you disagree, let me know, right? I'd love to hear the arguments against it. So yeah, that is the starter deck tier list. Let me know what you guys think. Do you have any different opinions? Would you move the order of some of these? I'd love to know. Discuss it in the comments below. It's an open discussion, right? I don't want to have everything set in stone here. There's only so much testing one guy could do as a YouTuber, you know? So yeah, if you're not already subscribed, I would appreciate it if you would subscribe and check out my other videos. And then yeah, be on the lookout for once the sim updates and I can test a lot of these starter deck cards with actual meta matchups. And I can also analyze it with all my tools, like my match history tools. I have a bunch of like leader rankings and player rankings and deck lists and stuff like that. So that's gonna come soon, depending on when it updates. So be on the lookout for that. And I guess that's it. Bye.
Card D Kaizoku.